Good morning, folks. This is old Tumbleweed coming to you. Video 12 of Gibsonton, downtown Gibsonton, Showtown, USA. I got another story to tell you. Told you I'd have a lot of stories to tell you. It's January the 9th, 2021. Weather outside's a little chilly. Supposed to get down to the high 30s tonight. I know we're in Florida, so that's pretty chilly for us. Those of you that are up north, it's probably warm. Anyway, the election's over with. Bad deal. But all we can do is just hope for the best. Anyway, this story I'm going to tell you happened, back when I was about 19 years old. I told you that I bought an old 1948 Dodge pickup. Carnival came to town. If you see my other video, I took off for the Carnival. I got a job on there as a welder. And I guess I was on that show probably 2.5 months before I finally left it. But things happened during that time that's kind of interesting. Pat was pregnant with my first child. And this show that we was on, which I told you was the Art B. Thomas show out of Lenox, South Dakota. Big show. Big show. But it was a family show. Really, everybody stuck together. And I was really surprised. I just got into the business and I was amazed on how people stuck together. We had our own, we had cookhouses, only show people ate at. We had G-tops where only the show people could gamble at. It was a lot of secrecy, among us. Anyway, Pat had finally got a bus ticket up there and come up there to see me. And she didn't get a job, though, selling tickets on that show. I don't know why. I guess there was too many ticket sellers. The way the ticket sellers worked on that show was that each ride had their own ticket box. And each morning before the show opened, the owner of the show or the manager of the show would put all the numbers in this hat and they would pick a number, and then these girls would get the ticket for that ticket box. But the thing is, they had to pay for that ticket box. Might have been $10, might have been $20, I don't know, but I know they had to pay for it. And pretty good, unique deal if you think about it, because the office didn't have to pay nobody. The girls paid their own way to get the ticket box. And the reason you didn't get the same box every day is because your best rides, well, of course, they had a Sky Wheel, one of the first in the country. Your tilt-a-whirls and stuff like that is what people wanted. The girls wanted that box. They didn't want, say, the merry-go-round. They didn't want the kiddie rides, but they had to take them because whatever come up, they had to take it. Because the way they made their money was walkaways. An educated ticket seller knew how to never give the Mark back his change. Mark was a customer. They always kind of held it back, and then they would hurry up and get on the ride, get the tickets and run. And the ride boy was in cahoots. Hurry up, come on, come on, come on. So they would, it's called a walkaway. And that's how they made their money. Well, anyway, we're going across that country up there, the Badlands of North Dakota. And those of you who live out there have been out there, there's a lot of prairie dogs out there. They're everywhere, prairie dog holes and everything. And I had bought a little .22 pistol back in Hastings, back 3 or 4 years prior to that, I just walked in there and bought it. And it was a little revolver, but it was a single action, which meant you had to cock it to shoot it. You couldn't pull the trigger, bam, bam, bam. You had to cock and shoot, cock and shoot, cock and shoot. And the barrel was about 2 inches, 3 inches long, maybe 4-inch barrel. Yeah, about 4-inch barrel. And it was about worthless as tits on a board, let me tell you. But anyway, we're out there. We're going across the country. And out there in that Badlands, and prairie dogs was everywhere out there running around. So we had done some hunting out there in Nebraska, with pheasants and stuff like that. So, Pat knew how to shoot a little bit. She actually got a pheasant one time with a 410. Anyway, so we pulled over the side of the road, and she says, "Let me shoot one of them little prairie dog." Well, that's all right. So we pulled over, and we got out of the car, their old truck, and we walked out there in this field, and we're shooting at them. Bam! I couldn't hit them. Hell, they'd run there, but stick their head up, like a whack-a-mole, like a whack-a-mole game, where they'd stick their head up and shoot at them and dick their head down. She said, "Let me try it, honey." So I remember now, she was big old fat. She was big old pregnant. She was pregnant. I estimate she was probably 7 months. Yeah, if I remember, from the time what stuff had happened. Anyway, so I cocked the gun and I give it to her. Instead of her taking it, she dropped it. And when she dropped it, the damn thing went off and hit me in the leg. Now let me tell you, it's a little 22 short. But that bullet traveled all the way up my side, about maybe 2 foot, hit my main bone, and just kept on going, and lodged in my top of my hip. It dropped me like a sledgehammer. I'll never forget it. And it started bleeding. Oh my God, we're out there in the middle of nowhere. We're in the Badlands. Man, I crawled back and got in that old truck and said, "You're going to have to drive. I can't shift a clutch." Boy, in the meantime, my boot's filling up with blood. So we finally stopped, took my belt off and got a tourniquet on it. Drove about 50 miles to the hospital. I hobbled in the hospital. Well, we got out there. They let me sit there and asked me how old I was, and told them. They said, "Well, sorry, son, but we ain't got no way to treat a gunshot wound. You're going to have to go on." I got it. So what do you mean go on? I said, "That's right. You have to go on. We ain't going to wait to treat you." So we drove another 100 miles. 100 miles in that old Dodge. By that time, the blood stopped, and my leg was all full of blood and everything, So we finally got to this other hospital. And I believe it was Minot. I think it was Minot, but I'm not sure. Anyway, we finally got in there, and they called the sheriff. Said, checked all the places around it. Maybe somebody had been robbed or something, I told them, I said, "I shot myself." I said, "The gun went off," and blah, blah. I couldn't convince them of that. They wanted to know where I'm from and all that. Well, I wasn't quite 21 yet. So obviously, they took my gun. And, of course, they cut it out. They cut the bullet out. Now, the reason I know about what time this was, because I learned a lesson, a valuable lesson. I told you in the other video that things in your life that you do, you learn, and you use them as the older you get. Well, I learned a lesson there, a valuable lesson. I had this bullet removed from my hip right up here, and I had stitches in it. That was maybe a half a dozen stitches. Wasn't very many stitches, just a couple of them, just enough to get the bullet out. And so anyway, we went on and to this spot that we was going to, and that was we'd already left the show, and we was headed for Wolf Point, Montana. There was a 4th of July festival going on there, and my buddy had found it on the billboard, and he said, we'll both go there, we'll meet you there, blah, blah, blah. So we both went there. But when we got there, Pat was really having some bad problems. So we put her in the hospital right now, and she's staying in the hospital. So anyway, we went ahead and worked the spot. And then when we got down there, I explained the story to you before we went up. We left that show, left Pat in the hospital, and went up to that spot where I told you about where we got in that motel room and seen all that money and headed out of there. Well, I still had that bullet, that stitches in me. I'm getting to the story here in a minute. Lesson that I learned in life. So after we done all that, we headed down to Cheyenne. We got down to Cheyenne, and my side over here was all red and was all infected. And I went to the first aid there at the Stampede Days, Cheyenne. They said, you got to get the doctor right now. He said, that thing is infected really bad. He said, them stitches been in there 20 days. He says, you never leave stitches in over 10 days. So I was 20 days. So it was 20 days from the time I got shot till we done played Wolf Point and played the other spot, and now we're in Cheyenne. So anyway, Pat had got out of the hospital up there and took a bus down to Cheyenne. And we couldn't work there. We couldn't get a job. Could not get a job nowhere. But this guy that I was with was pretty smart. And I wasn't too smart. Hell, I've been in Marietta my whole life, and I didn't know much about life, but I'd listen to him. He said, well, I know how to make scissor buckets. Now, scissor buckets is a crooked game. It's controlled by a ball, 3 balls. You got 3 balls. And he says, we can build a couple of them and sell them. We can get $150 a piece out of them. I said, well, I'm in for that. So we went around to Midway, and we got 2 orders. We got 2 of them ordered. So we went in the bathroom at night, and we built these scissor buckets in the bathroom. They turned out pretty darn, and I learned how to make them later on, but I built 2 of them right there. So my truck had done blowed up. It's gone. So the only thing we could do was jump in that old Studebaker and head down. I wanted to go to California. So Pat was with a brand new baby, and we're headed. I'm gonna make this story a little longer because this is what happened on the trip out to California. So we get down, and it was me. He done left his girlfriend up there in that Cheyenne, I think. Yeah, and it was me, Pat, and him. And we took off out down towards Phoenix, which I had a brother living in Phoenix. So I thought, well, I'll get on down there and see my brother, and then we'll go from there. We're going out to California. So we're headed down that way, and we stopped out there in the desert. Stopped somewhere, and I lift the hood up and open the damn cap on a radiator. And what I said now, you learn things in life. Later on, you don't do this stuff. And it just burnt the dickens out of me. Hot water all over me. That temperature out there was like 110 degrees in the desert. Boy, I was suffering. So I couldn't drive. We had no air conditioners. I was really hurting. So we stopped during the day and traveled at night. I remember we stopped in the river down there, a little creek there, and I got in the water and stayed there for several hours, first day or 2. Remember now, Pat had a little baby. Donald was just about a week old or so. No, about 2 weeks old. Anyway, so we stopped out there in the old truck stop, middle of the desert out there and we're getting low on money, but we had a little money left, not much. I figure if I can get to Phoenix, I can maybe borrow some money from my brother, and he'd get me on out to California, go out there and go to work. So anyway, we stopped at a little truck stop out there in the middle of the desert. We walked in. Each one of us ordered a Coke. It was 10 cents a piece. So the waitress bought mine and bought me a glass of ice. Brought Pat one with a glass of ice and my buddy Bun with a glass of ice. What she did was she poured it, instead of just giving it to us, she poured it into a glass of ice. And the top of our glass, her glass, Pat, was all scummy and dirty and greasy. I said, my God, I said, can't drink this. She told me, she said, I can't drink this, honey. I said, well, no, you can't drink it. So I called the waitress over. I said, you got to give me another Coke here. She says, no problem. She goes back and gets the glass and just dumps the glass in another glass. I mean, a Coke into another glass. I said, oh, hell, I ain't paying for this. So I thought. So I get up, we get done, walk up to the counter, and I said, ma'am, I'm not going to pay for that one Coke. I said, it's dirty. You know, and I told her what I did and what she did. And she said, you ain't going to pay for it? I said, no, I ain't going to pay for it, no. She said, hang on a minute. She turns around, goes over to the telephone, and she dials 3 numbers. I'll never forget it. 3 numbers on that phone on the wall. It was a dial phone. I'll never forget it. No more than a minute, the door opened. Here come this big old sheriff coming. Where is he at? She said, right there. He grabbed me, twisted my arm around my back, and put the cuffs on me. He says, you're going to jail, boy. I said, oh, hell. No questions asked. He drugged me out, threw me in the back of the car. Donald's crying, and Pat's crying, and my buddies just don't know what the heck to do. Took me out there, didn't say a word, threw me in the cell. Now, this cell was like you see on the cowboy days. It had bars, it had no floor in it, there was and no windows, no nothing, just bars. It was the adobe shack, but it was out there in the middle of nowhere. I don't remember having a piss spot or nothing in there. I laid in there and passed out there in the parking lot crying, and what are we going to do? Well, next morning, sure enough, they dragged me in front of the judge. Now, this is honest God's truth now. Judge said, are you going to pay for that Coke now, son? I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I paid a dime and let me go. We got in that old Studebaker and headed west. Headed for California. Here we come. Well, that's going to be enough of this video today. But I tell you what, folks, I had a little exciting thing happened to me out there in California. Things started to change a little bit. We went to Phoenix. We went to see my brother. Got out there in Phoenix, and I guess he must have given me well, I'll make this quick. He says, he said they got a brand new chicken joint. Just starting up out. He says, boy, that chicken is good. He said, you can get a great big old paper bucket for $3.50. He said, we got to go have some. So we jumped in his car, went out, and bought a great big a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's the first time I ever seen it, never heard of it. And it was $3.50. So going back memory lanes here, folks. That's all I'm doing is reminiscing. So I'm going to cut this video off now. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's another one from old Tumbleweed, downtown Gibsonton. And if you like this video, hit the like button. Help me out here. I ain't got too many hits, but every little helps. All right, folks. See you again. Bye.